Hello, I'm Stephanie Fiteni, co-founder of Defined Branding and online visibility coach. Today I'm here with Zach Spuckler, who is one of the topmost experts on Facebook in the online sphere right now. Hello, Zach.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for doing the interview. And would you like to give us a little bit of information about your background and how you became a Facebook entrepreneur?
Sure. So my name is Zach Spuckler, and my company is Heart, Soul, and Hustle. And basically, we teach digital entrepreneurs how to leverage various online marketing strategies to build their list, their reach, and their income so that they can ultimately create the freedom that most of us are pursuing when we start in this space. So I've been doing this for several years in terms of Facebook ads. My current company is almost 2 years old, but we've been doing Facebook ads in this and other niche for a long time. I've worked with 6- and 7-figure business owners on their Facebook ads, and I'm a total nerd about Facebook ads, so I'm excited to talk about them today.
That's great. And you've had some fantastic results for your own business as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We use Facebook ads on a regular basis in our business. We spend a nice little chunk of change, nothing too crazy right now. Most of my original experience came from working with other people, but yeah, we're now spending several thousand a month on Facebook ads, which we love doing.
That's great. I'm sure everyone listening to us is going to find this so useful. So let's kick off with the first question. The first question is something that troubles my audience a lot, and they seem to struggle with Facebook adverts, So my first question would be, how do you actually get your adverts to take off? How do you troubleshoot, when you put that advert on and it's not quite working?
Yeah, so this is a really common issue that people have. And the first things first is when it comes to Facebook ads, the name of the game is testing. So you first want to make sure that you're actually testing ads. So if you're saying, well, my ads don't work or my ads don't convert, but you're only really running like 1 or 2 ads with like the old $5 a day adage, yes, you can run really successful ads on $5 a day, but you first need to spend maybe $50 to $100 testing several different targets. So wherever you're going to run your ads to, you need to first start with testing. So I always start there when I say, if you're trying to troubleshoot your ads, first make sure that you're actually running enough ads to get good data. There's something called the Pareto principle that you're probably familiar with because it's huge in the online space. They call it the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 law, the law of return. There's all kinds of names for it, but basically it says every 10 ads you set up, only 2 or 3 of them are really going to deliver. So if you're only setting up, 2 or 3 ads at a time, you're stacking the odds against you from the onset. So we'll table that. So I'm just going to assume that you're doing a little bit of split testing. But if you're running a bunch of ads and it's still not working, a lot of people go, my ads don't work and I don't know what to do. And we get really tripped up because there's so many moving pieces. There's like hundreds of data points you can get at any given time from your ads. But I like to make things really simple. There's only 3 primary issues you can be having with your ads. Either they're not delivering, they're not being clicked, or they're not converting, right? Because there's only 3 interactions that happen with your ad. They see it, they click it, they sign up. That's it. Everything else, we make it confusing, right? Yes, there's like a million micro decisions that might happen from one to the next. Yes, maybe they click and they don't convert. But at its core, those are the only 3 issues. So if it's not being pushed out, check that you have a big enough budget. Check that you are doing that large enough testing, and check that you're bidding automatically. A lot of people like to do manual bids when they're first starting with Facebook ads because they think it's cheaper. It's not. The only way it's cheaper is if you really understand how bidding works in an ad marketplace. And if I said that and you were like, what does that mean? It means you should be using the automatic feature, okay? So if they're not getting pushed out, test, make sure you're pushing them out automated, and make sure you have a big enough budget as well as a big enough audience. If you're targeting pages that are only going to reach 1,000 people, well, they're not going to reach, okay? Then if they're not getting clicked, it's really an ad image or a copy problem, right? Because that's the only thing that determines a click. What it says, what it looks like. So make sure that it's relevant to them, the copy and the image, and of course the targeting. Now, I truthfully don't look at targeting as a huge troubleshooting thing because I should be doing like 20 different targets at a time. So when I first set up an ad, I'm going to set up maybe 10 to 20 different pages that I'm going to run ads to. So I can kind of cross off from the get-go. Targeting shouldn't be an issue because I'm doing so much testing anyway. But if no one's clicking, it's a copy or an image issue. And you want to change one, retest it. And if that doesn't work, change the other and retest it. Okay. Then finally, you get to the landing page, right? So if it's being seen and it's getting clicked, then the only remaining problem is people aren't signing up. And there's really only a few reasons that would be. Number one, it's not a relevant offer. So sometimes we have the right market, but not the right relevant offer. A perfect example would be if I did a Facebook ads troubleshooting guide. That would be incredibly relevant to you guys. But if I offer the same guide and I call it scaling your Facebook ads to 5,000 a month, that's not going to appeal because I know who the target market is. I did a little research before we did the show. I know that the average person watching this interview is not spending $5,000 a month. So if all of my landing page says scale to $5,000 a month spend, no one's going to be attracted to it, even if it's the exact same content inside. So make sure it's a relevant offer that people in your space care about. Another way to think about that is I always say stop creating solutions and start solving problems. A lot of times people love to be like, oh my gosh, do you know what would really help people? When what people really want help with is what they think they want help with. So just solve their problems for them. Number two, you do need good copy and images on your landing page, and they need to be cohesive with the ad. So if your ad is purple and you take them to a green landing page, it automatically drops your conversion. If you call it a worksheet on the ad and you call it a checklist on the landing page, it automatically drops your conversion. If you have great copy on the ad and bad copy on the landing page, automatically drops your conversion. So you want to make sure that it's relevant, it's cohesive, and then that it has really great copy and images. So if it's a relevant offer with good copy and they clicked on the ad, they're going to sign up. And just to be clear, one final thing that I always tell people is a lot of times when people are new to the advertising space, especially in the online world, like right now, the big trend is, being a heart-centered entrepreneur or being a soul-centered entrepreneur. And listen, I'm all about it. Passion is so important, but ads are a numbers game, pure and simple. So a lot of times I get people that come to me that are like, my ads aren't working, or not a lot of people are signing up. Well, if 1.5% of people are clicking on your ads and 40% of people are converting on your landing page, you're doing really, really well. And to kind of put that into perspective, that means if you want to get, 40 people on your list, right? You need 100 clicks on your ad, which means you need to push your ad out to anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 people. Some of those numbers might be a little off because I'm working on my head here, but somewhere between 800 to 1,200 people is how many you have to reach to get 40 opt-ins, assuming everything is optimal. And most times it's not optimal. So keep those things in mind that it is a numbers game. So before you even start stressing yourself out, if your ad is getting delivered and you're getting anything above really a 1 to 1.5% click-through rate, which is called CTR. It's right in your ads panel. You don't have to do the math on it. If you're above 1% and more than 30 to 40% of people on your landing page are opting in, you're doing really well. It's just how advertising works. So that's troubleshooting, nice and simple.
Wow, that's great. You took us through the whole path. That covers quite a lot of my questions, actually.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. You mentioned that you need to make sure that you've got a good budget. Now, of course, there's two types of budget. There's the capped budget and the daily budget. And what would you consider a good budget, when you're keeping in mind how many registrations you want? How does the maths work?
Yeah, so one of the biggest mistakes that we see people make a lot, and one of the actual cornerstones of what we teach in our program, is that you should be basing your budget off your revenue goals. So a lot of times we hear advertising and we think ATM, right? I'm going to put $1 and I'm going to get $3 out. And I want to make $10,000 and I have $500 to spend. But that's not really how advertising or budgeting works, especially in the advertising space. So when it comes to determining your budget, you want to think, how many people do I need in my promotion to create the results I want? So let's say you're doing a coaching program, right? And you want to get 10 people in the door. Okay, so if you want to get 10 people in the door, you probably need to get 20 people on the phone. Okay, so I'm going to assume you're closing on the phone one-on-one. Okay, so if you want to get 20 people on the phone, generally speaking, you get about 5% of people in a launch or a promotion or a sale or a funnel. The funnel one's a little touchy. It might be a lower percentage, but 5% of people are going to schedule the call when you put it in front of them. So if you need 20 calls and 5 people are going to take you up, you need 400 people to sign up for your freebie, right? And you need to offer them a phone call. Okay, so now we know we need 400 leads, right? So we've kind of reverse engineered it to the lead perspective. Now there's 2 options. You can kind of go, what's standard in your industry, right? It varies on a month-to-month basis, on a year-to-year basis, on a day-to-day basis. But right now in the internet marketing space, I know I pay about $2.50 to $3 a lead specifically for my Facebook ads freebie. So we're just going to say $2.50. Okay. So now you have 400 leads at $2.50 each. I need to budget $1,000 to book 20 calls to get 10 people to close my deal. So the caveat is you're kind of operating a lot in what I call like the theoretical space, right? Like we're assuming you'll close 50% of your calls. We're assuming 5% of people will schedule. We're assuming all of this. And so sometimes people get a little leery about that. They're like, well, you're making a lot of assumptions. And so I always want to say, like, flip the script for a second and ask yourself, how many assumptions are you making when you say, I'm going to spend $500 and my goal is 10? You're making a ton more assumptions because you're making 0 assumptions. And so you're kind of, by making no assumptions, assuming that everything's going to work out perfect. And in this way, we can control the numbers. We can say, okay, let's get conservative. What if only 2% of people book a call? What if 10% of people book a call? And you can start creating a range for yourself. So when we go into an advertising, like this big launch we're going into, we sat down and said, how many leads do we want in this promotion? How many sales do we want in this promotion? And then from that, we reverse engineer our budget. So your budget, yes, like, and listen, I totally sympathize because a lot of times I hear stuff like, well, the number I got is $1,000 and I don't have that to spend on Facebook. Listen, I did not have $1,000 to spend on a promotion when I first started. Guarantee it. Most of you don't. And it's super easy for me as like the go-to expert to be like, just budget what you need, right? But the reason I tell you this is there's this kind of facade, so to speak, that the only way to do really well with ads is to spend $1,000, right? You don't have to do that. It just means if you're trying to make $10,000 and you realize you need 400 leads, well, maybe you only have $200 budget. That's totally fine. So you can get 100 leads that you pay for, and now you can do the work of getting 300 organic leads. But at least now you're operating from a different space versus I'm operating blind, doing the best I can, to now you're operating as a business, because businesses do ad spend projection, conversion projection, sales projections. So it's really just practicing well in advance. And here's the really cool thing. If you do a launch and you only have $150 in Facebook ads, let's say $250 to keep the numbers even. Let's say you only have $250 in Facebook ads and you get 100 people signed up for your freebie. Even if you convert, let's say 2 of those people to a coaching client, and let's say you charge $1,000 a person. You spent $250, you made $2,000, not a bad return. Take 500 out from the get-go and put it into your ads next time. That's how people scale up their business. You can't, of course, you can't budget $10,000 on day one, but you can budget $10, then $100, then $1,000. Our most recent promotion, we're budgeting multiple 5 figures, but a year ago we budgeted $1,000 for this massive launch we had. So we've been able to 10x our budget over the course of a year. But again, it took a full year. So don't expect that you're going to have these massive returns and these amazing funnels and these fantastic launches on day one, even if you get your ads game strong right out the gate. There's so many moving parts. And I don't say that to scare you away. I say that because that should be empowering to you, that you do not have to perform great on day one. You can underperform, you can make mistakes, you can start small and scale up, because that's what everyone does. So that was way more than you asked for, but that's a hot button issue for me when it comes to budgeting.
Yes, I bet you get asked a lot of questions.
Constantly.
And people always want to know how much you're going to spend, but it's true. I mean, see, that is perhaps one of my personal problems. I'm one of these people who really have to go for large goals.
Hello.
So I'm starting to realize that I need smaller goals because I have smaller budgets, and hopefully I'll do what you do, climb up as I go along.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so I know you touched on landing pages earlier. However, I'd like to ask you something a little bit more specific about landing pages.
Sure.
And I've got my question right here. So how do we test and measure landing pages?
Yeah, so when it comes to a landing page, the thing you want to remember is there's so many different things to consider. So first things first, the key metric on a landing page is the conversion rate. So how many people land there versus how many people take you up on your offer. And the kind of gold standard number is 30 to 40% on cold traffic, okay? Mm-hmm. So just there are a ton of terms out there. Promise I will define them all. Basically what that means is your landing page key metric is how many people actually sign up when they get there out of 100. So if 100 people visit and you have a 40% conversion rate, it means every 100 clicks is 40 signups for your email list, okay? Now there's other things to consider. What about confirmation? If you do double opt-in on your email list, I'm not even going to play that game, but just know that that's part of the equation too. So the landing page is that conversion rate, right? But if you drive warm traffic, and warm traffic is people who already know you, they are on your list, they like your Facebook page, they visited your website, they're going to convert probably above 40%. When we first push a landing page out to our warm traffic, we get anywhere from a 60 to an 85% conversion, right? So almost double the metric. However, when we push stuff out to cold traffic, we generally start at like a 25 to 30% rate, and we have to tweak and optimize and improve it. Now, the really nice thing about landing pages is if you use something like lead pages or ClickFunnels or Instapage or even Unbounce, almost every landing page service that you can use these days gives you that conversion rate. It's almost like a standard metric that comes with everything. So I highly, 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 highly recommend that if you're going to be running ads, you invest in a landing page service. I know that ConvertKit comes with landing pages. I know you can embed an Aweber thing on your own website. I know you can build fantastic things if you've got great coding ability, but the reality is that one key metric and the ability to track it is vital to everything else. And then the second thing is you can always split test. So we did a really great promotion earlier this year where we did a joint venture, and we didn't know if people would resonate with me on the landing page or with the other person on the landing page. And so we split tested it. We did one that was a photo of us and one that was a video of us because we didn't know where do they resonate more. And surprisingly enough, the big word right now is video is everything, and our non-video page converted better. So, that's another way that you can kind of improve that is to just split test it. And I know ClickFunnels does split testing. I know Lead Pages does it. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure about Unbounce. I know Instapage does it. So if you're like, I don't really know what to do, you can always just be super bold and split test. The kind of key rules of split testing are you change one thing at a time. So like if the button's blue here, it's red there. That's like the true split testing. I tell people, listen, we aren't 99% of my audience, you're not operating at the point where a 0.5% or a 2% conversion is really a game changer, right? And that's what we tend to see when we change like a button color or we move a bullet point or we shuffle some stuff around. So when I'm first getting started and people ask me like, can I measure or test my landing page? I say just split test it and do two different things. Maybe one's picture, one's video. One is all your brand colors and one is totally neutral. One, says webinar, one says free workshop. Just go crazy testing two different things, see what happens and side with the winner. You can get into like really, really, really intense split testing. But again, if we kind of bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, that 80-20 rule applies to everything in life, right? So 80% of the results come from 20% of the work. I can almost guarantee you split testing a button color, if you're anywhere under the 6-figure mark, is not part of that 20% paying you back in dividends. So to just bring it back full circle to what the question was, how do you test or measure that page? You test it by really driving traffic there and checking your conversion rate. 30 to 40% is pretty good for cold traffic. You're going to get higher conversions with people who already know you. And then you can measure it with a really great tool like Lead Pages, ClickFunnels, ConvertKit. You can, if you want to use your own website, use Google Analytics. But trust me, it's a nightmare. I don't like to do that. I would rather just use a service that's meant for that. And of course, you can always split test as well. If you're just getting started, I recommend high-level split testing of like 2 entirely different pages and see what works.
Okay, that's excellent. But a different approach, definitely. Yeah. It had never, to be honest, I have always A/B tested similar pages.
Yeah. And the truth is, you can, like, the reality is certain things will split test more effectively. Like a headline would be something that I would want to split test 2 different pages. A button color, probably not so much. And that's just stuff that comes from kind of watching the industry. Like, you know, that's one of the things that I geek out on. So other people get really excited when, like, you know, the new movie comes out. Like, I get really excited when a new split test publication happens, or I sign up for funnel, you know, courses and emails, and I study this stuff. So, you know, by all means, like, what I am saying is not the end all be all. I do not consider myself like a conversion expert. There's an entire class of people who understand how split testing works like a million times better than me. I always say, like, even whether it's testing your landing page, whether it's budgeting, whether it's troubleshooting your ads, I like to simplify things as much as possible, because the complexities don't really come into play, you know, for a decent amount of time, right? Like, I kind of operate from the point of do what you can do right now until you can afford to do what you need to do next. And sometimes that means you have to push your comfort zone and, like, spend a little bit of money on lead pages. Like, you might be like, well, I don't have the money. I always say there's 2 kinds of I don't have the money. There's no one's going to eat, and that's I don't have the money, like, be smart. And then there's the I'm afraid to invest in myself, or I don't know if I should do this, I don't have the money. And that's fear talking. And if you're the second class, you need to invest. And if you're the first group of people, then, you know, don't buy things you can't afford. But you do need to push your comfort zone and start playing with these higher level tools if you want higher level results.
Excellent. I'm so happy you kind of split that in 2 as well, because, you know,
Yes.
there's a lot of investing in yourself is important, but spending too much can be bad for business in the beginning
Yes.
as well. So it's
Absolutely.
important to
Absolutely. And I think that that's really important to keep in mind is, you know, like I say this now, like we spend thousands on ads, and, you know, we just recently added up like what our monthly subscription cost was. And I was like, oh my gosh, is that what we're paying every month for subscriptions? But like when I think back to my first month, like I was very strategic and I budgeted, okay, this is what I can spend on my business month. I think it was like $500 a month when I first started. And I actually was working as a virtual assistant to bring some of that money in. So no, I don't think you should go out and be crazy and like waste money. And, you know, you don't need to invest in the tools that the top level pros are using on day one, right? It's like if you buy the golf clubs that the pro golfers use, you still need the lessons to go with them. So yes, I think tools are important. And yes, like lead pages is one of the ones that I'm pretty adamant about. But no one says you need all of the tools, right? So maybe you buy one of the clubs in this analogy, lead pages, but you can invest in some of the lessons and yourself before you have to spend $10,000 on the full set. So we tend to have, like, in this space, very all or none mentality, and that's just not how it, even with advertising, there's no rule that says you can't go spend $20 today and then not spend $20 for another week. Is it the most conducive thing? No. Do I do it? All the time. You can spend what you have, get results from it, and then scale up. You know, there's this really successful entrepreneur that I know that posted something the other day that basically said, you know, the art of entrepreneurship is turning $1 into 2 and then doing it over and over again until you learn how to turn 1 into 3 or 1 into 10 or 1 into 100. And that's what we have to remember is everybody started with just the $1, and you have to be strategic about how you double it, but then you don't take $2 and pocket it, you put it back into the business. So anyway, this is a hot button issue for me, but I think it's really relevant to ads because you are spending money on ads. You do need to spend money on good tools. And you know, you do need to invest the time and money and energy that goes into something like this. So
that's right. I'm so glad you said that. Yeah, I deal in my main business as well with a lot of businesses that sometimes get surprised at how much you get to spend on Facebook because they think, oh, it's Facebook, it's a daily thing, it's not a business tool, so, you know, we'll just throw 20 euros at it.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you cleared that for us. So, next question is perhaps not so much connected to landing pages, but in a way it is. And I know that this is something that a lot of people have heard about, but don't perhaps know enough. And you kind of touched on this in a way when you mentioned, retargeting your own audience before. And, how you use the Facebook pixel, and maybe how also you can use your own contacts and retarget them on Facebook.
Yeah. So this one we talked a little bit about before we started the interview. So I want to keep it really all here and not screen share, so that it's really simple to listen to, or wherever you are. Plus, I know it's really hard when I screen share and there's two people to see what's going on. So let's talk about the pixel first. The new Facebook pixel is way simpler than people tend to make it. So the first rule of thumb with the pixel is any page you have, whether it's your website, your lead page, your landing page, your thank you pages, your purchase pages, your course pages, put a pixel there, right? Having the pixel on the website tracks activity, okay? So the pixel, it's called a pixel because it actually codes in a pixel, which is like one little square on the page, but you don't see it, right? And when it loads, it tags that person, okay? So the best way I can explain this is, imagine that your person is like literally walking through the internet, right? And when they visit one of your website pages, you take out a sticky note and you throw it on them, right? And so when they're on Facebook browsing, as Facebook is loading, they're checking all of the sticky notes, right? And you as the advertiser can say, if they have this sticky note, run an ad to them. That's all that the core pixel does. It is tagging them when they visit certain pages, okay? Then there's something called standard events. And this is where people lose their mind and go crazy because it's super confusing, but it's really not. So every page has this pixel that tracks the activity. On thank you pages, you can install what's called a standard event. And you literally copy and paste these like 6 to 20 characters of code, and you put it in the pixel. Now, this is where everybody likes to get really like, oh my gosh, I don't know code. You don't have to know code. You have to know how to copy and paste. You have to know how to follow the little instructions on Facebook that say, paste it right here. I promise it's way simpler. People, from my experience, they just throw up a wall as soon as they hear coding or install. They're like, oh, don't know that. I don't know that. That's not my skill set. It's okay. It's not my skill set either. Copy and pasting is my skill set, and I've gotten very good at it. Okay, so you copy and paste the original pixel everywhere, and then on thank you pages, you put what's called a standard event. And I believe that there's 9 of them total. Double check that number. There's 9 total, and these are things like lead, purchase confirmation, complete registration, page view. So these are things that actually track what is happening on that page. So if somebody types in their email on your landing page and they land on the thank you page, that is a lead, right? If they go from that page to the next page, the loading of that page signifies a lead. And so the way, if we continue this full analogy, is that when they land on that page, we're also taking that sticky note and we're writing a little note on it so that when Facebook sees that, they go, oh, they also did this action. So standard events track an action, okay? Now, it happens as soon as the page loads, so they only go on thank you pages. And the way to think about standard events is, if you remember old school baseball games, when you used to walk through the turnstile, this is like way back, turnstiles didn't used to have a counter in them. And so somebody would stand there and go click, click, click every time somebody walked in. That's what a standard event is. It's just an empty clicker that counts every time somebody lands on that page. Now, people go, well, what about other people who land on that page? Or what if they didn't come through Facebook ads? You don't have to worry about that. The pixel is smart enough to know if they have clicked on your ad or engaged with your ad to get to your landing page, and then they won't count them as a lead until they see your thank you page. But because you have the pixel everywhere, you can track who has made it to the landing page and not opted in, and you could be running ads back to them, okay? So we'll recap, and then I'll explain how all of this benefits you. So the pixel the standard pixel that Facebook has now, the new Facebook pixel, it goes everywhere. And all it's doing is tracking when someone visits a page. Any page that loads immediately after somebody takes an action you want to track, whether that's signing up for a webinar, opting into your freebie, buying a product, you place a standard event that's all explained inside of the ads panel on that page specifically to count those actions. Then your core question was like, well, what's the benefit of that, or how do we target those people? Well, Facebook tracks all of that data, and inside your ads manager, there's a tab called Audience. And you can go in, click on New Audience, Custom Audience, and you can literally set up an audience based on whatever you choose. So you can say, I want to target people who have visited this page on my website. So maybe you've written an amazing blog about how Facebook ads convert, and you know everybody that reads that blog should get your freebie. So I want to target them with my freebie. You can also say, I want to visit everybody who's visited my website in the past 6 months, right? They're warm leads. Anytime I do a promotion, I'm going to run ads to anybody who's been to my website. I know they're interested in my product. You can also, on that exact same page, totally separate from the pixel, upload a CSV of your email list. Now, if I'm getting a little too nerdy here, basically any email marketing software you have, ConvertKit, Aweber, Entour, Infusionsoft, what else is there now? There's a million of them. But they all allow you to export your email list as a CSV file. You upload that to Facebook, and what Facebook will do is cross-reference. And generally speaking, you only get about 60% match. But if you have 1,000 people on your list and you can say, hey, these 600 people have signed up for my freebie, the big question is always, why would I run ads to them? Well, because they're the warmest audience you have. Sometimes it's worth it to acquire a lead for $5 and then pay another $5 to turn them into a $1,000 customer, right? We get really caught up in the math, like, well, why would I pay twice? Well, because you'll profit. That's why you would pay twice. It's just like, why does Target put out a circular every week? Like, people know about Target. Well, they also know people like to be told about Target. So keep pushing content out. So really, that's the benefit of the pixel. It tracks all of that activity, and it allows you to track if your ads are actually converting. And then, of course, you can use it to set up custom audiences. And in that same vein, you can also upload your own email list to target them with advertisements, as long as their email matches their Facebook email, which we see does that about 60% of the time. So if your list is any bigger than 250 to 300 people, you probably want to upload it to Facebook and play with it. And then we like to upload ours once a month because it will not update in real time. You will have to go back in and update it.
Wow, that's great. That's a very interesting feature. And see, this is one of the reasons why I wanted you to just go into all the details, because there is so much, if people used Facebook just, 2 years ago, then the advertising has changed so much, and it's
crazy.
That's why we need specialists like you because to stay on top of it, because the speed of it is astounding. One thing I've heard of, but I haven't actually used, is similar audiences.
Mm-hmm.
And is this related to uploading your email list?
Yeah, so when you upload your email list, there's a feature called Lookalike Audiences. And so when you go to create a custom audience, Lookalike Audience is an option. And you can choose that CSV that you've uploaded. Now, what Facebook will do is let you pick an audience of 2 to 10 million people in one country of your choice that are similar to the people on your email list. So you upload this email list, and basically Facebook is smart enough to find common qualities about them: their average age, their average gender, their income, their interests, things that we can't even fathom, right? Facebook knows how likely you are to buy a car in the next 6 months, probably before you do. It's actually something you can target inside the ads manager. So you upload it, and they'll create a similar audience. Now, this is where people make mistakes, because you don't want to necessarily just run ads right to those, in my opinion. You want to pick a really common interest. So if I upload my list, it's going to find mostly women. We know our audience is about 80 to 90% female. So it's going to find mostly women. I know that they're mostly going to be over the age of 30. I know what their average income is going to be, and I'm making some conjecture. Obviously, I don't know exactly what Facebook is going to pull here. But we know enough about our audience that they're going to pull all of these people in. Mm-hmm. However, we also know that our audience loves things like Oprah, right? Does liking Oprah make you qualified for my Facebook ads course? Absolutely not. And so little things like that will end up in here, right? So we might have somebody who fits the profile of my ideal person to a T, except they're not a marketer, right? Like, huge flaw. So what I always like to do is we upload a lookalike audience, and we may run directly to that for like clicks to our website, traffic, maybe page likes if we're trying to just outreach to that community. But if we're looking to convert them onto our list, we're also going to say something like a really vague interest. So they should look like my list, and I want them to like internet marketing, right? And it's instantly going to cut that lookalike audience down by as much as 50 to 80%. And so now instead of targeting 2 million people, I'm targeting 400,000. But this is 400,000 people who are interested in internet marketing and look a lot like my ideal audience. So clearly there's something to be said about the fact that 50 to 80% of people do not meet that criteria. But now I have a pretty hyper-targeted area. And then a couple things to remember are, number one, obviously the bigger your list, the more accurate your data is going to be, right? If your mom, your sister, and your brother are on your email list and that's the only people you upload, it's going to be a much different picture than if you upload a list of 100,000 people who have all bought from you in the past as opposed to just your list. So keep in mind that your data affects the results. And then number two, it's all about testing. So sometimes our lookalike audiences, they kill it. Sometimes our lookalike audiences fall flat and suck. So it's going to come down to testing it to see what works and what doesn't.
So this is just one of the types of adverts you would use in the 10 ads to test your 80-20 rule.
Yep, exactly. So anytime we're doing a new promotion, we always include a lookalike audience for testing. Absolutely.
Excellent. But not just that.
Yep, exactly.
Because it sounds so good that you think, wow, there's no way this can flop.
Exactly, and there is. And it has flopped for us many a time.
Wow. So that was an amazingly detailed answer. And I'm sure that a lot of the people watching will actually go and action that because it's really difficult to do on your own.
Yes, hopefully. We would love to see people running with this.
Oh, I think you've made it so much easier. You've explained that so well. Right, so my next question is, how do you use Facebook and content in your marketing ecosystem? So, as you know, my audience tends to do a lot of articles on content marketing and video and high-value content. And how do you fit that all in in your own business in the whole ecosystem?
Yeah, so what's really interesting is we actually have a ton of content. And so, Facebook ads are a driving force in our business, but we have a ton of free content. We have a podcast, we do webinars, there's like 1 million freebies on my website. Like, we love to push out content. I'm all about good content. The key thing is that content alone does not pay your bills. And there was this mantra where, believe it or not, I actually used to do like really intensive content marketing. I used to write SEO articles for people. I flipped websites before. So I love me some content marketing. But the key thing is there used to be this saying on the internet, content is king. And we don't hear that quite as much anymore because, even 3 years ago, anybody who's online will tell you, you could write an article, spend 20 minutes kind of promoting it, and it would go to the top of Google. Like, you could just get unlimited traffic in a very short period of time, to the point where I was buying websites for $10-20 and flipping them for $1,000, right, in the course of a couple of months. It was very easy to do. It doesn't work like that anymore. Google has cracked down. Facebook has cracked down on the reach in the news feed. So the key thing is content is king, but it doesn't matter if there's no one in your kingdom, right? So it's great to be in charge and the ruler of your content, but if no one's reading it, it doesn't matter. So Facebook ads are a way to push people to your content, right? So we actually, what's so funny is we got an email yesterday from someone who said, I'm a content marketer, and I want to thank you for your email series because there's a ton of value here. So we have to change the way we think about content marketing a little bit, where we used to be very black and white. Either this is designed to get sales or this is designed to create value. And really, that kind of thinking is hopefully, in my opinion, dying off. Yeah. Where now it's about, you need to spend money to bring them in, but who's to say you can't just throw a ton of value once you pay to get them here? See, we tend to think, well, if I paid to get them, I should be getting paid to have them. But that's actually not how the content marketing model was ever created. The content marketing model was, I'll put free content that will convert them at a free or low cost, and then I'll put more content so they continue to buy my products and services, right? Because if you create value in someone's life, they will reciprocate, they'll want to learn more from you. It's why we get a lot of repeat buyers, because we do rely on content marketing. The difference is that front part of content marketing doesn't work the same anymore. So you can't just write a really good article, pay someone to spin it, throw it up on a bunch of Web 2.0 sites. Hopefully I'm not geeking out too hard. But you used to be able to do that. You can't do that anymore. So now the front end option is you can hustle your little buns off and promote it organically. And I have friends that do that very successfully. For me, what it really comes down to is I can put a ton of work into posting it on Pinterest and making it pretty and pushing it to Instagram and throwing it on my Facebook and then doing it over and over again for 3 weeks until I get 400 people to my website. Or I could do none of that, or maybe some of it, if it works. But I could do none of that, and I could spend $50 and like no time, and they're all there. And then I bring them into the fold. So the key thing is you're not paying for readers, you're paying for leads, because you can't get leads quite as free or cheap as you used to. And every market goes through this. Every platform goes through a season. It used to be super easy to get likes on your Facebook page. Now it's hard. It used to be really easy when Periscope came out. Now it's a little harder. When Facebook Live was new, even though it's only 3 months old, everybody was watching everybody live. Now it's kind of last week's news. Every content marketing, email marketing, ad marketing, pay to click, it all goes through these seasons. So you just have to make peace with it and be willing to kind of ebb and flow with that. So that's my kind of lead into, actually, I promise I'll answer the question, which is how do we use the ads in our content marketing? Just like that. So we still put out really great content, but we know the value behind pushing to promote that content. So sometimes we run ads to our podcast, to our existing audience. Sometimes we run ads to our freebies. Sometimes right now we're always running ads to a couple of freebies. One that's putting people into a pre-launch sequence that's prepping them for a big launch we're going into. Then we have some ads that run to a funnel. So, this morning while I was prepping for this interview, which I was like, please let it happen this morning, it did. Somebody converted right off our sales funnel. So I woke up this morning and I was at Starbucks a little bit this morning working, and my phone goes off and I got paid. And so this is not, please hear me, this is not the whole sail off into the sunset, drink rum out of a coconut while you make $1 million while you sleep thing. Like, it took a ton of work to set up that funnel. The big thing is, we're generating new leads into our business, and it's bringing money in at the same time. And that is really what you want to be thinking about with ads. Is it's not how many leads can I get, which is such the wrong question. That's why it drives me nuts, and why I went a little bit tangent when people are like, how do I get low cost leads, or what should I pay per lead? It doesn't matter what you pay per lead. It doesn't matter if you spend $50 a lead if you make $100. So we also use them in a place in our business where we can put $1 in and get $2 to $3 out while simultaneously building our audience. So now when we put out new content, we don't have to advertise as much, right? So up front, we had to put in the work of maybe gaining 10 new readers a week because we didn't have a big budget. And then once we had 100 readers, then we asked them to share. And then you start to get that viral effect. And it's very kind of, it inches and then it seems to just happen one day. And that's why we kind of get like, well, ads aren't right for me in my business, right? Because, well, Zach's doing so well in his business, or Stephanie's doing so well in her business, or Joe Schmo is doing so much in their business. That's why ads work for them. The key is you have to be putting that content out there and then pushing traffic to it. There's a really amazing saying that I love from Digital Marketer, one of my favorite places to learn about online marketing. And Ryan Deiss loves to say, most people just have a traffic problem, right? The real problem is not your content or your conversions or what you put out there or even your products. It's that there's not enough people. And I think it comes back to, I think it's okay to be a heart-centered entrepreneur. Listen, I'm the first one to tell you, like, I lead with passion. I lead with purpose. I'm not trading my life or my values to make a buck. But it is a numbers game. And so if you want more people to buy your product, put your product in front of more people. That's right. Especially with the internet age, it became really easy to kind of downplay the relevance of getting in front of people. But look back like 1970 to 1990 and just look up sales books and look at the names of them. Go for No, The Power of No, The Art of Rejection, I think is one. Back in, before we had advertisements, the goal was not, how do I get more people to buy? The goal for top salesmen was, how do I get more people? Because then more people will buy. And we lost that when we saw wow, look how easy it is to do a webinar. Look how easy it is to automate. Yeah. When you look at these big launches, you think, well, they only sold 1,000 products. I could do that. But you look on the back end of their launches and wow, they got in front of 20, 30, 40,000 targeted people. That's the numbers that we don't see. And so to wrap it up again, because I just love to ramble, the way we use Facebook ads in our content marketing ecosystem is threefold. Number one, we push our content out to encourage people to engage with it. Number two, we're using it as a lead generation tool, pure and simple, in preparation for launches, webinars, whatever we want to do for our business. And then we're also using them as a profitability tool inside of our sales funnel. So we're always driving traffic to a follow-up sequence that's designed to offer our Facebook ads program for sale to people and convert them into our customer.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much. Like, I'm glad you cleared that, because, there are some people who are in my course. Well, a couple specifically that we're not failing at Facebook ads, but we're failing at perhaps creating the whole funnel. So, because where you land, of course, really matters. So I'm really happy you gave us a good holistic overview, because pumping money into Facebook just so people see your face and then land on your contact us page, that is part of the problem as well. So
yes, absolutely. And I think, just as a little a note to that is, like, we didn't start running our ads. Like, now we have the luxury that we can throw $50 a week at the podcast. When the podcast first came out, we didn't have a ton of money to spend on it. And we just didn't. We didn't have the luxury of pushing that content out. And so what we would do is we would say, okay, but I do have $20 to push out to the podcast. And before that podcast, we really weren't even pushing out our content that much. We were just driving leads, because that was what we needed. We needed to build the list. We needed the leads. And before that, we didn't have time to prep for a launch. So we were only running ads that converted, directly to sales in some way, shape, or form. So that is the holistic approach that we take. And I remember when I first watched interviews like this, and you'd be like, oh my gosh, so let me get this straight. I have to run ads to my content, and I have to run ads to my freebie, and I have to build a sales funnel. No, you don't have to do any of that. And in fact, I know really successful people with no sales funnels. I know really successful people with sales funnels that would make the fact that I even use the word funnel look like a joke for how our system looks. So it's all about being where you are now, but operating one step ahead, right? And I have one of my mentors, James Wedmore, loves to say, what got you here won't get you there, right? So if you've been spending $150 a month on Facebook ads and it's not moving the needle, you need to spend $300. It's uncomfortable. It hurts. It's hard. But you can never be a business that makes the money a business spending $300 a month makes until you are a business spending $300 a month. It's one of the best lessons he's ever given to me. And I think that is especially true with Facebook ads. Like, again, I'm very adamant of, like, don't max out your credit cards. Don't go without dinner. You should not be starving or sacrificing, like, living conditions to be building your business. If people come to us and are like, I'm going to max out my credit card to join your program, we tell them no. That is not the way to build a business, in my opinion. So, but all of that being said, you do have to operate outside of where you are right now, because the reality is, anybody watching this interview, if you are listening to this interview going, well, I probably should do more Facebook ads. Here's the thing. However much you're spending right now, if you continue to spend that much, you will not build your business. Because you won't build it the way you want to, if that makes sense, because you can only build it to the point of how much you're spending now, right? The first time we did a launch where we spent $5,000, we had to go out on a limb, and that was terrifying. But then we are operating like a business that does $50,000 to $60,000 launches. Now we know the first time it's scary, and we didn't go out on a limb spending $5,000 the first launch. We went through several launches. We did mini launches. We did product testing. We did beta testers, founding members. We got copywriters. We didn't just go in at $5,000 a month. So even if you're listening to this, if you're spending $20 a month, push it up to $100. If you're spending nothing, start at $150, $200. If you're spending $500 a month going, well, why isn't it happening faster? Why isn't it happening faster? Double your spend, right? You have to, use what you learn from stuff like this, but build your own system, because my content marketing system is not going to work the exact same as your content marketing system is not going to work the same as yours. There's key pieces to everything that you learn. Facebook ads, conversions, landing pages, pixels, right? But at the end of the day, you cannot be substituted. So you have to do what works best for you. Yes, the system works. Yes, it's straightforward. You have to do what works best for you and moves your business forward. So the way we use the content in our ecosystem, I don't want you to listen to this and be like, well, that's what I should do. I want you to listen to this and go, oh, that's a good, I never thought to promote my podcast, right? And maybe that's your one takeaway, where you now add $20 a month to the podcast and you do that. Or you listen to this and you go, I never thought about running ads consistently to our funnel. Let's budget $500 and run ads to our funnel. And if we sell 2 programs, we make our money back. So that's how we use our content. But I really like to empower people, plug into a system that works, but don't be afraid to push the boundaries of a system that works, because that's where the breakthroughs happen, right? You learn all this stuff by pushing boundaries and doing stuff that other people aren't doing.
Wow, it's a ton of value, Zach. Thank you so much. And I'm really amazed how you've managed to, not screen share and yet give so much value. And
Thank you.
That doesn't really matter because I'm sure you'll be sharing some freebies with us that
Yeah,
maybe
absolutely.
people can action.
Yeah, so if you guys are listening and you're thinking, listen, I really do need to get my Facebook ads game needs to get strong. If you head over to heartsoulhustle.com/FB ads, and I'm sure we'll link that up, but it's heartsoulhustle.com/FB ads. We have a free workbook that you can grab. It's called High Converting Facebook Ads Workbook. And it'll teach you in the next 15 or 20 minutes how to really start mapping out your first or next really successful ad. We go a little bit into targeting, a little bit into copy, a little bit into images. My goal is not to teach you everything about Facebook ads in 15 minutes. It's to get you off and running. So if you've listened to this interview and you're thinking like, I should get back into ads, but last time they weren't so good, or I've never started, or you're just one of those overachievers who's like, they work, but they could be better. I like that. You can head over to that website, download that free workbook, and we'll hook you up with some great bonuses in there too.
Oh, that's great. Thank you, Zach. I will email your freebie to my audience and to my followers so that they can have a direct link to your freebie, because I'm sure that a lot of people are going to be actioning this. You really gave us the motivation, okay, we can do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone can do it. That's the thing. If you try, if you just persist through it long enough and you kind of go through the rough patch and you kind of make peace with the fact that you are spending money and at some point you'll make a mistake and you'll lose 50, 100. I've lost a decent amount of money playing around. Once you make peace with that and just go for it, like anyone can do this. I've trained friends, students, like I've watched people go from, we got this amazing testimonial that I loved where somebody's like, now that I did this and like followed through, like I stopped losing money. That was the big thing. Like as soon as they made that click of, oh, I shouldn't be trying to get lower cost leads, I should be trying to be profitable. They were like, well, I'm only running ads when I'm profitable now. And it is really easy to get there. And I mean, we're talking, I've watched people go from like, don't even put me in the Power Editor to, don't even bother me. I'm doing all my ads on my own now, killing their launches. So it's very, very doable. You just have to really give yourself I like to call it space, grace, and latitude. You can totally do this. Give yourself the space to process, the grace to make mistakes, and the latitude to not be perfect the first time.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for giving me your time. I just have one last thing. A lot of the people on my course and also the followers, they are in the process of setting up their business, a side business, or maybe trying to grow their coaching online. And I know that you've built your business from scratch, so I'd like you to, give them, if there was one tip you could give to yourself back when you started off, what would it be?
Yeah, the big thing that I would give myself a tip on is, number one, give yourself a little bit of time to let it happen. Mm-hmm. Everything feels really fast and overnight a lot of the time, but first off, like I'm a marketer, I get it. These messages are strategic, right? Like, yeah, I did make 6 figures in 6 months, but I've been studying Facebook ads for 2 or 3 years. So I think it's really, really important to understand that it's going to take some time. And if you think you're going to get rich tomorrow, you're not. If you think you're going to quit your job tomorrow, you're not. You could prove me wrong. But the thing is, if you're so dedicated to like being like the special case, like I paid off all my loans and I quit my job and I sailed off on a boat where all I do is drink beer and make millions of dollars. That's probably not going to happen. Give yourself time and pick something that you really, really love doing in some capacity. I don't really subscribe to the whole find your passion and capitalize on it. I think that there's certain, I love napping, but that's never going to pay my bills. But find something that you enjoy doing, right? The reality is it's almost funny that we don't think about it. But when I first started talking about or learning about Facebook ads, I talked about them all the time to anybody that would listen. And it dawned on me about a year ago. I was like, nobody else is excited about these, right? It's not a bad thing, but what are the things that in your business you're ridiculously excited about that nobody else is? And really lean into those things in the time of stress, because when my launches were, not going so great, or when things were rough, I would be like, you know what? I'm just going to set up my Facebook ads and geek out a little bit and come back to it, because that's why Facebook ads are a core piece of my business. I believe they should be a core piece of everybody's business, but obviously I'm biased because I love them. And when you start to instill stuff like that into your business, there's always an escape to the stuff that truly fills you up. So yes, I wake up some days and I have to do 3 interviews and 4 coaching sessions, and it's a crazy day. And I'm like, why did I do this to myself? But I always know, you know what? Tomorrow I'm going to do Facebook ads, or tomorrow I'm going to write a marketing email. I have made my business around marketing not because it's easy to make money in the online marketing space. It's because if you listen to me talk, like I hear this all the time, people are like, you really are a nerd about it. I'm like, yeah, I really do love this stuff. I'm not doing it because the money's here. I'm doing it because this is so much fun. Split testing and spending and funnels. And it makes me happy. It makes other people's brains hurt. So there's profit. So that's my tip. Do something that you really like. Find that thing about your business that really makes your heart full, and really lean into that, because it is going to take some time. But guess what? That timing, like, oh my gosh, in the moment it sucks, but so many great stories now, years later, and always new stories developing. So.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Zach, and your passion. Because it's
Thank you.
It's great. I mean, I'm not passionate about Facebook ads, but when I follow your podcasts or listen to you talking, I get excited and I get them done.
I love it.
This is why you are absolutely the top best person for this interview. Thank you so much for giving me the time. And
of course. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
That's great. And I really look forward to keep following what you do, and I'll definitely be popping into your inbox again. Thank you so much, Zach.